Most people never discover what weighted calisthenics is actually capable of. Not because they don't train hard, because they spend years doing the same pull-ups, the same dips, and the same bodyweight workouts. And eventually, their physique reflects it. The back stops getting wider, the chest stops getting thicker, the strength stops moving. Then they look at athletes who can do pull-ups and dips with massive weight attached and wonder why they look completely different. The answer isn't better genetics, it's progression. Because the moment pull-ups and dips stop being bodyweight movements and start becoming progressively heavier over time, your body is forced to adapt in a completely different way. But here's what most athletes get wrong. Adding weight alone isn't enough. In fact, it's exactly why so many athletes plateau before they ever build the physique they're chasing. The problem? At first, weighted calisthenics feels almost too easy. You add 5 kilos to your pull-ups. A few weeks later, you add another 5. Your strength goes up, and everything seems to be working. But eventually, something happens. The weight that used to fly up starts slowing down. Technique gets worse, and progress becomes unpredictable. So most athletes do what seems logical. They keep adding weight randomly, and for a short time, it feels like it's working. Then the plateau arrives. The same weight stays on the belt for weeks, and every workout feels harder than the last. Not because they've reached their genetic limit, because they're treating weighted calisthenics like heavier bodyweight training. And the moment external load enters the equation, the rules change completely. Why the physique looks different. 2 athletes can do the exact same pull-up, yet one ends up with a completely different physique. Why? Because the physique isn't created by doing pull-ups or dips, it's created by what those 2 exercises become over time. The athlete who stays at body weight eventually stops giving his body a reason to adapt. But the athlete who takes a pull-up from body weight to plus 20, 40, then plus 60 is forcing adaptation every step of the way. The same is true for dips. Every increase in load demands more from the muscles responsible for moving it. More strength, muscle, and adaptation. And that's why weighted calisthenics athletes often look different. Not because they're using special exercises, not because they're training harder, because they've spent years progressively making the same fundamental movements heavier. The wider back, the thicker chest, and the denser upper body. Those aren't created by weighted calisthenics itself. They're created by progression, which sounds simple, until progress stops. Because this is where most athletes run into a problem. The heavier the weights become, the harder it becomes to keep progressing. And without a system, eventually every athlete runs into the same wall. And that's exactly the challenge. Getting stronger at weighted pull-ups and dips isn't the hard part. Almost everyone can add weight for a few weeks. The hard part is knowing what to do when progress slows down. How much weight to add, and when to add it, and how to keep progressing without beating up your joints in the process. Because that's ultimately what builds the physique. Not random hard workouts, but years of consistent progression. And if you're looking for a complete system for doing exactly that, I've put everything into my weighted calisthenics program. The progression model, the plateau protocols, the exact framework I use for weighted pull-ups and dips. You can find it through the link in the description. But whether you check it out or not, there are 3 principles every successful weighted calisthenics athlete understands. And most athletes get at least one of them wrong. Step 1. Load management is everything. The biggest mistake in weighted calisthenics is treating weight as the goal. It isn't. Performance is the goal. Weight is simply the result. And this is where most athletes kill their own progress. The moment a weight starts feeling comfortable, they rush to add more. Not because they've earned it, because they're impatient. And eventually, they find themselves grinding the same weights week after week. The strongest weighted calisthenics athletes don't add weight because they feel strong. They add weight because they've met a standard. A simple example is using a rep range. Let's say 5 to 8 reps. You stay at the same load until you can reach the top of that range with clean, controlled reps across every working set. Only then you add weight. The athletes who keep progressing for years are obsessed with owning the weight they're already using. And once you understand that, the next question becomes, how do you structure pull-ups and dips so that progress stays balanced over the long term? Step 2. How dips and pull-ups actually interact. At first, weighted calisthenics feels balanced. Your weighted pull-ups go up. Your dips follow. Everything progresses together. For a while. Then it changes. One lift starts slowing down. The other keeps moving. And most athletes don't think much of it. Because as long as one number is going up, it still feels like progress. So they try to fix the weaker lift. But nothing really changes. Because the problem was never the exercise. It was the relationship between them. Weighted calisthenics isn't built around isolated movements. It's a pull and a press that are supposed to evolve together. When one falls behind, it creates imbalance. Recovery gets harder, and overall progression slows down. That's why the best athletes don't separate pull-ups and dips into different paths. They track, adjust, and progress them together. And once that balance breaks, there's one more factor that decides whether you keep progressing or start breaking down completely. Step 3. Recovery is part of the training. If you think recovery means just rest days, it's not. Weighted calisthenics puts a specific stress on your tendons and joints, not just your muscles. And here's the problem. Muscles recover faster than connective tissue. So your muscles feel ready, but your joints aren't. To keep progressing at 40+ kilos, keeping your joint healthy is a must. That means two things. A warm-up that specifically activates the structures heavy pulling and pressing depend on, and knowing exactly when to pull back. Not on a schedule, but when your body signals it. Final rule. Weighted calisthenics isn't special because of pull-ups. It isn't special because of dips. It's special because progression can continue for years. And even though it's the same 2 exercises over and over, weighted athletes keep adapting because the demand never stops increasing. And that's ultimately what creates the physique. If you want the full system, the progression model, the plateau protocol, and the coaching videos for weighted pull-ups and dips, it's in the description. The physique doesn't come from training harder. It comes from training with the right structure behind it.